Welcome, friends. I'm Josh Kleinfeld, pastor at Still Meadow Church of the Nazarene. We are in a unique time in history. But as Christians, our mission does not change. Our call to be disciples of Jesus Christ and to go into all the nations, teaching them about Jesus and helping people become disciples, that call remains. But now we got to figure out, what does it look like to follow Jesus as individuals and as families in a pandemic? And so we're doing a series of podcasts each week to tackle topics ranging from family to fitness to finances and beyond. And then on Wednesday nights at 7:30, we're doing Zoomcasts where people can join in to listen and ask questions and offer feedback. Each week, we want to walk away with one thing. Today's topic has to do with the reality that, as the routines and rhythms have been tossed aside, our call to serve has not. And so the question is, how do we develop and keep an attitude of serving others through this time? Today, our guest is Pastor Isabel Clark. Hello, Izzy.
Hello.
Pastor Isabel is pastor of mission at Still Meadow, and she is in charge of guiding us in serving locally and globally. She also works at LifePath as a processing technician, and she is an artist of many talents. Pastor Isabel, how are you doing with all of this? How has this affected you?
Well, like so many others, right now I am unemployed. So it's been a very interesting journey, and unemployed, but yet my ability to do more with and for the church has increased. So it's been kind of like a weird balance and shift and all that kind of stuff.
I think weird is a perfect word for it. But I want to just say at the front, thank you for your leadership of our COVID response team. And I just appreciate the way you've kind of run with that and helped lead us in mission in that way. And so as pastor of mission, what is it that you are wanting Still Meadow people and people beyond Still Meadow to hear in these days?
I would say that I would hear that the call to be kingdom citizens hasn't changed. That hasn't been canceled. That hasn't been quarantined. And I think now more than ever, many of us are positioned to be more proactive and more intentional in kingdom building and going forward with partnering with God in building his kingdom. So two scriptures have been on my heart during this time that just kind of really, I think, speak to the situation and answers that question. And one of them is in 1 Peter 4, verse 10. It goes like this: as each one has received a special gift, employ it in serving one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. And I think, how cool is that, and how appropriate is that? Like, each of us have been given gifts, and that's another thing I want people to get out of this, is that everybody has something to give. And nobody is excluded from that. It's not just the pastors to do something. It's not just people on the board or anything, but everyone has been gifted. And I love that where it says the manifold grace of God, because through you acting out in your gifts, you are showing all the different graces God has for us. And the other one that has really been speaking to me is found in Philippians chapter 2, verse 3, where it says, "Do nothing from selfishness or conceit, but with humility of mind, regard one another as more important than yourselves." And I think that's very poignant for this time, because especially when all of this was beginning and everyone made this mad rush to the stores and just buying. And God through Paul is saying, hey, don't just think about yourself, think about other people as well. So all of that is part of God gearing us toward being more aware of his kingdom and his kingdom movement. So
I love that, both of those references, and I think about like the letter that Peter wrote. He wrote to this scattered church, right? Like at the start of that letter, he actually talks about them as exiles, and in a sense, we're kind of in a similar period in time where we've been scattered into our homes and throughout York County and around the world. But even as we're scattered, we are actually carrying the word with us wherever we go, carrying the purpose and grace and hope of Christ wherever we go, which you didn't set this up for me on purpose, but in all of our groups, we're actually looking at the letter that Peter wrote to those churches. And so if you're in a small group at Still Meadow, you'll be studying those texts, and you'll be getting to 1 Peter 4 in the next few weeks. And so I do think, though, that in that, I love that Peter reminds them they're all a part, right? In that same letter, he's like, we're all stones, like in this one body. We're all an essential part, if you will. You know, like I love that emphasis on like the essential workers right now. But thinking about how like there is no one in the kingdom who is not essential, right? And I hear you saying that. But we can make that could go to our head, be like, yeah, that's right. I am essential. I am important. But then like Philippians comes in and Paul's like, hey, yeah, you are important, but also you're important in this way. All made to serve, right? And so don't put your wants, your agenda before others. Instead, put their needs before yours. That, by the way, is incredibly difficult. And so, I mean, I don't know about you, but like I'm still growing out of and getting over selfishness and unservant-hearted ways of thinking and feeling. And so I appreciate that you're pushing us in this time. This is an invitation to be like, all right, am I still open, or am I open to serving as Christ has served me? And to recognize that he wants me to give, and he has called me to give, and by his grace I have the power to do it, but I've got to have the attitude of a servant, right? That's I love that, and I'm really grateful you pointed those two things out. And so, Pastor Izzy, you're connected around the world with other missionaries that or servants in other countries who are serving in other places. Can you share a little bit about how some of those servants that we're connected with have been impacted?
right. So Jonathan Phillips, who is in Romania,
Okay.
excuse me. And as I'm mentioning this, keep them in your prayers. But they are also they've been in lockdown since March 25th, he said. And Romania is trying to be very proactive because the virus had spread kind of aggressively, he wrote, in Western Europe. And so Romania has been trying to be proactive in stemming some of that. So they are also experiencing what we're experiencing. It's very interesting that the coronavirus is actually uniting us around the world under one common experience. And so there are times when you're thinking, well, I don't get, or I can't quite understand because I've never experienced what they've experienced in this country or that country or whatever. But like right now, we can actually say, hey, we know exactly what you're going through. We're stuck in our houses too. We can't
Oh,
go.
wow.
We got to wear these masks. We're all actually suffering the exact same thing at the exact same time. It's very interesting. But anyway, so Jonathan is asking for prayer, obviously, for those same things. And we do actually have a prayer guide, Missions does, for
Okay.
our things. So if people are interested in that, they can reach out to me or Irma Schaefer, and we can email them a copy of that they can read through and pray with our servants around the world who we're connected to. Another one is Dr. Aaron Meyer, who was supposed to visit us in July, I think it was, for our
June.
mission. June, yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't know, guys. Maybe you'll get to meet her, maybe not. I'm not sure. But one of these days, maybe you will. She's our Links missionary. She serves in Papua New Guinea at the Nazarene hospital there. And one of the things that she shared just kind of put in perspective too, that even though, like I said before, we're experiencing the same things, that we are still blessed in this country and need to be mindful of our blessings so that we can be a blessing. But also what was really outstanding was her positive attitude and her faith, and not just her faith, but the faith of those in Papua New Guinea with her. And one of the things she shared is that she wrote that we're ready to do the best we can in our environment. We don't have much to offer medically. We have some IV fluid and oxygen, but we have the love and hope of Jesus that we can share. They don't have respirators. So when people are in the more advanced stages of coronavirus, they don't have the respirators to put them on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they don't have the same medical technology and facilities that we have. They just have the basics, and their faith is what's getting them through. Our faith should be what's getting us through too. And that's just a reminder for all of us to walk in faith, So
That's a really, I really appreciate you sharing her story, Dr. Erin Meyer. And I do want to encourage anybody who's listening. We support efforts around the globe for people like Dr. Erin. We do that through specific giving to like Jonathan Phillips and Erin. And if you want to support their work, if you want to support John's work in Romania or Erin's work in Papua New Guinea, you can go to stillnaz.com/give. And in our online giving or through our checks, if you put John Phillips or put Aaron Myers in the memo line, we will make sure that those gifts go directly to their work in Romania or Papua New Guinea. If you want to give to the general fund that funds mission around the globe, you can give to the World Evangelism Giving, and we'll spread that out across the globe. And so thanks for sharing and bringing the global perspective there, Pastor Isabel. Can you share any local stories that have been like maybe standing out to you about ways that people are helping now here in York?
So the stories that I know of, and I know that people are doing other things too on their site, and I would love to hear about those. So feel free to email me those stories if if God has led you to do something. Like I heard the story of Pat Anderson, who is serving meals to truckers at truck stops. Like, now how cool is that? And offering hope and a hot home cooked meal. And so, and she's doing that beyond the COVID response team. And so, I would love to hear those stories, but what I do know, as we're working as a team, the COVID response team, we have three main things that we're doing right now. We are helping Life Path by supplying them with bread weekly that they've been serving and giving out with their meals that they're serving the public with. Also, we have been helping out at the food bank, which Nikki Stalker has been taking charge of that. She's doing an awesome job. Way to go, Nikki. And she shared that the need has become so great that they actually had to move out to their Haynes Road facility. If some of you are aware of where the old Kmart is, they are occupying that space right now. And she said they're looking at giving out 2,000 boxes. It started about 1,000. Now they're up to 2,000 boxes they've been giving out Tuesday and Friday. So about 4,000. And another place we're serving is we've been helping the York City school districts with their free serving free lunches out to the children. Because many kids that go to school, not just in the city, but even out in the suburbs, there are a lot of kids who the school meal is the only meal they're really going to get for that day. And so we've been supplying volunteers, great groups of people, just alternating shifts and helping out with them there.
And I have a few things to say about that, but one, I'm really grateful for those people who are already stepping up and serving in that way. And I'm grateful for those who have shared needs with you. One of the things that I thought was kind of cool is someone shared that the nursing home that they work at was not supplying enough masks for them. And so they gave that to you and I, and we then at the same time, someone that I had talked to on the phone said, "Hey, I'm making masks. Is there anybody you know of that I can make these for?" And we connected those two, and they were able to work together. And I thought that was really neat. The lady who made the masks said that she made them and left them on her front porch. And then the woman who was working at the nursing home came by and picked them up and then delivered them to her nursing home, which is just incredible. Like just how the works and the grace of God is being shown in those kinds of things. And so if you know of a need that you would like to share and get help with, you can contact Pastor Isabel or the COVID response team, and we'll share that contact information at the bottom if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. If you want to join in, we'll also share how you can sign up to be on the COVID response team. Now, I have a couple questions. What can people do if they have more time but can't leave their house because they're immunocompromised? Are there ways that you are encouraging people to serve in this time when they're in that position?
Right. So, and just to back up to something you had said earlier, when you were telling the story about the need for the masks. So part of working in the kingdom is being aware and having your eyes and ears open and your hearts open and notice, like pay attention to people. One of the things this is teaching us is to be more observant of people, because it's so easy in our society to just walk past someone without being aware. Or noticing their needs, or being at work and people are talking and we just don't think about it. But this person had the eyes and ears to see, oh, there's need, and shared that need, and we were able to do something about it. And so going to the question, I've been encouraging people, like, pay attention to your neighbors. They're the closest the closest people to serve, if you will, to you.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're like a couple of 100 feet away, like if you have like a lot of land, you still have neighbors somewhere.
Yeah.
There's people,
Yeah.
you know, and just try and be more aware. And that goes back to the Philippians passage about not looking after your own interests, but the interest of others. That's intentional living, Pastor Josh. I mean, to be
Yeah.
aware of other people's interests, you have to actually be intentional about paying attention
Yeah.
to what's going on in it. And so I would just, I encourage people to just have eyes and ears open and poised and ready to hear and see what the Holy Spirit's showing you about a person. Maybe it's a physical need. I think in these days we have to be more aware than we usually are to people's emotional needs too. Meeting physical needs, I think, is a whole lot easier for us to handle. We're like all gung ho. Yeah, I can pack boxes or make masks and stuff, but the hardest part to serve and the hardest area is when we make ourselves more aware of someone's emotional needs, because that's something you can't fix right away. But you would be surprised about how powerful just a listening ear is for people. Just letting them vent. You don't have to fix anything. Just let them cry or yell or be angry or be sad. Don't try and say, don't be sad. Just let them be where they are. If your neighbor across the way is struggling, just say, hey, I'll listen to you. If you
That
see them,
is so good. I'm sorry to interrupt.
go ahead.
That's bringing to mind that if someone is that kind of vulnerable with you, it's also an opportunity to take it from an emotional, personal connection to a spiritual connection, where
Mm-hmm.
you can say, "Can I pray for you?" And while they may say no, you will still pray for them. But if they say yes, then that opens the door to share hope in a way and acknowledge the presence of Jesus and the Holy Spirit with you in that conversation. I think that's awesome that you're bringing up that awareness, and then to take the next step, invite them into that prayer is really cool.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna be landing this conversation now. And so did you have any practical tips for those with kids, or if they have less time? Did you have anything before the one thing?
Right. And so, and this goes for people who can't leave their houses, also people who have less time, people who want to help. Pray. We always underestimate the power of prayer. And it's sad because that's where you see the greatest movement of God happen. Don't take the attitude, oh, I can just pray. No, like that prayer moves mountains and opens doors. And it doesn't have to be complicated prayer. I was serving at Ferguson Elementary, and they had extra food. And I said, well, they wanted to give it to me. I'm like, I'm okay. They said, well, here, just take it. Thank you for helping. So I was like, well, I can give it to my neighbors, even though I think my neighbor's okay for now. But so as I'm walking back home, because Ferguson's right up the street from me, I'm just saying, Holy Spirit, if there's anybody who needs this more than my neighbors, just let me, show me. And just like a minute later, a woman and her daughter come out the door, and, I was kind of watching, but you don't want to stare. And I saw her pointing at me, and I asked her, I was like, hi, how are you? And she's like, good. She's like, was that from the school lunches? And I was like, yeah. I said, did you miss it? And she's like, yeah. And I said, well, would you like it? And she's like, no, I don't want it if you need it. And I was like, I'm fine. Here, you can have it. And she was like, just so ecstatic. And she's like, thanks. I have 5 kids at home and I didn't know what to do.
Wow.
It wasn't like this complicated prayer. It was just like, Holy Spirit, show me. And so when you're in your homes, if you're busy, you're never too busy to pray, to whisper a prayer to God. So pray for your neighbors, like we said, pray for your family, pray for the COVID response team, pray for Aaron Meyer, Jonathan Phillips, and others. Pray. And that's something you can bring your kids into too. Bring them into prayer. Too often we try to like send the kids off to entertain so we can do stuff, but take them on a journey with you. If you're going to write encouraging notes, have them write them with you. If you're going to make masks, have them make it with you. Bring the kids on the journey, because that's how they will learn to also see with kingdom eyes.
Oh my gosh. There's a whole, like, you just opened a can right there. I loved that. I loved that. And what I still have Philippians open in front of me, and chapter 4 says, don't be anxious about anything. In everything, every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Pray. I love that. Did you want to share the one thing you recommend? If there's one key takeaway, what would it be?
My one key takeaway would be that even when things are happening that we don't understand, that God is still working and he's still up to something. And that we want to be in the mindset of, how can I join God in what he's doing? Because in the midst of all of this, God is doing something and you don't want to miss it. So my takeaway is look for God's work. Ask him, what are you doing and how can I be a part? Like, want to be a part of what God is doing in the midst of this. I know we hear all the doom and gloom in the news, but it, like, woven in between all of that is a movement of God, and I don't want anyone to miss it. So that would be my takeaway.
Be a hope dealer.
There you go.
Oh, thank you, Pastor Izzy. This was really helpful and good, and I hope is a blessing to those of you who are able to listen in. And I just share, if you want to follow up with Pastor Isabel, you can email her at Pastor Isabel, PastorIsabell at stillnaz.com. And if you want to sign up for the COVID response team, just go to stillnaz.com/COVID-response-team. If you want to share a need, you can email Pastor Izzy. Listen, friends, you are essential. God has gifted you, and by his Spirit in you is going to give you eyes to see and even the attitude to look for ways to serve. You're awesome. Thanks for being with us today. Bye now.